Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Critical Thoughts. I'm your host, Braxton Smith. Joining me today, finally, co-host Bo Chandler. So today we're actually going to talk. Today's date is November 20th, 2016, and we're going to talk a bit about some of the selections Trump's been making lately for his cabinet. He's actually been making a few choices. Some of them are locked in, other ones not so much. He's just kind of wishy-washy on the fence about, but even now, just a few choices he has made is actually pretty profound. And got my whole list here, actually. And first two I want to go over was actually, I'm sure plenty of people have heard, Reince Priebus and Stephen Bannon. This is about all the information I could find on them. And not much. This thing is like a lot of I'm seeing a lot of articles go around, a lot of speculations, a lot of rumor. People are panicking right now about who's going in and who these people are. Reince Priebus, I can go ahead and tell you, no need to panic. It's the same old BS we've had for like the last 20 years. He's the RNC chairman, and he is poised to be the chief of staff for Donald Trump. So what that entails is basically he's going to have Donald Trump's ear. He's going to be the guy that says, it kind of gives a thumbs up, thumbs down for who Donald Trump puts in his office, his cabinet. So, yeah, basically, I mean, you think about it, the RNC chairman, this is the guy who's been picking people to go up to, fill in certain positions for the RNC, for example, president, kind of influencing that. And now he's going to be helping Trump pick who gets into those offices. So, and we're already seeing a lot of the people are establishment. The GOP, same old BS establishment. So unfortunately, it's not turning out to be quite like we had hoped so far as revolution. It is about what I suspected was going to go down if Trump was president. So that's about all I got to say about Reince Priebus. I couldn't really find much information on him. He's a really underwhelming person. However, Stephen Bannon, I don't have much information on his paper, but I can tell you a lot of some of my run-ins with him and how he runs his page. He runs Breitbart News. If you all know, Andrew Breitbart was the founder of Breitbart News, who died mysteriously in 2012. I suspect assassination, maybe, but that's a story for another day. And strangely enough, this guy takes it over. Stephen Bannon, he's supposed to be the chief strategist and senior counselor for Donald Trump. And it makes sense. All these fears people have had about all the anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant, all this talk people have had is summed up with this guy. When he took over Breitbart News, we just saw it take an extreme, like us libertarians used to actually go to Breitbart. And then when he took it over, he took an extreme turn towards neocon, talking about rounding people up. And recently I read an article where they're talking about there should be a cap. I actually read this article. It said there should be a cap on whether or not women can, how many women can go through college for certain degrees. And basically talking about putting a cap on the education level of women. You have to check that one out yourself. Maybe we'll link it below later. Very, very disturbing stuff. There's some other stuff where they're going way off the deep end, talking about him being a white supremacist. He's a white nationalist. We know that much, seeing some of the news he's let out. People say he's an anti-Semite. I don't know about that. That's still out for trial, and I don't think there's any solid evidence on that. But he's definitely anti-Muslim. He's definitely anti-Islam. He wants them all gone, and I gotta say, so far as white supremacists, if anything, I would say Donald Trump's ties with Hillary Clinton is more concerning. Like, we all know that she's a white supremacist. She doesn't say it. She has her private life and her public life she likes to put out there. Public life, obviously, kind of not cool anymore to be a white supremacist. Kind of have to be closeted about it. And,
just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. You got to dial it back a little bit. But, we saw her kissing Robert Byrd, the senator that was actually a Grand Cyclops for the Ku Klux Klan. So, she's cool with him, and Donald Trump was cool with her at one point. We saw them being very familiar with each other. So, that's about as white supremacist as I see in all this. That would be my only concern for it heading in that direction. You got any input on this so far?
I mean, I just think it's going to be the pattern you're going to see going down the list. These are establishment, GOP party members. I mean, we've got the lead guy, taking the chief of staff position himself.
Ryan's previous, yeah.
Exactly. The chief strategist is going to be an editor of a news outlet.
Yeah.
So
the right wing, like
he,
basically the Rush Limbaugh.
So pretty much the guy that's controlling information. The president's guy has been controlling information to media. So that's going to be very interesting to see how it comes out. Anti-Islam. That seems to be the story here that the viewers are going to see here coming up, and just what we've been going on since 2001 and prior to that. It's going to be very interesting to just see how this goes down for us. I mean, just look at the list here. He'll be going through it and everything, but very interesting stuff to take note.
Right. And so, with that being said, I wanted to just point out real quick, to all the liberals out there that's so quick to jump on somebody for being a xenophobe. Now you definitely want to pick your battles, because now I see it definitely possibly heading in that direction. I think absolutely, Islam should be brought into question. Like, a lot of the Muslims that are out there are actually a threat to us. So it's the only religion right now that's like going as crazy and haywire as they are right now. They're very divided and they're very volatile. But hopefully, and that's why I say you got to call the punches on that one. I mean, it's like you can't just be calling everybody a xenophobe. You can't just call me a xenophobe just because I'm saying maybe we should question these people. But because there's going to come the day where they're going to go all FDR and talk about imprisoning them or deporting them. I'm seeing it right here. Here we have next Jeff Sessions. He's going to be the Attorney General. So basically, he's going to be the legal representation for the government. So anytime there's some kind of scandal, he's going to be the guy that's in charge of it. He was Attorney General for Alabama. He is a senator from Alabama. And he's a mixed bag, He's got some promising aspects. He attempted to block 2 anti-constitutional judges. So that's something that we can actually see translate directly into being Attorney General. He opposed the Affordable Health Care Act. That won't really translate, but I like that. Then he goes and opposes same-sex marriage. So he wants the government to actually get involved. This is kind of the conservative we don't really care for. This conservative aspect we don't like is when they feel the government has a right to tell 2 consenting parties what they can or can't do.
Let's just stay out of the personal aspects of people's lives. I don't know. Let's just try that government. Just leave that alone.
It's like don't even legalize marriage. Just have absolutely nothing to do with it. And he's also heavily against cannabis legalization. Like, he is a staunch adversary for cannabis legalization. He's constantly out on the road talking about how cannabis has ruined so many lives, and stuff like that you would actually see translate into his role as Attorney General. Voted for the Patriot Act, so you can see him definitely using emails. Use your emails against you. He will have no problem doing that.
Big brother shit.
Yeah, it's real fascist. It's the kind of stuff we're worried about, even as conservative libertarians. We worry about this. This does not bode well. He favored the war in Iraq. Did vote against stimulus, and he voted against torture. He voted against torture bans. So meaning, you ever turn against the state, and he'll be down to torture you. He just sounds like, again, more fascism. What we're worried about, and he's big against illegal immigration. So, he's going to crack down on that. That I'm not so worried about, but I can just see that line beginning to blur where, you end up sending them off to prisons, some shadow prisons nobody knows about. So, anything you want to add before I move on?
Probably not going to see Gitmo go away with this. I mean, we said, hey, look at the list, read the list. I mean, we're not really reading or seeing anything or putting out information that is any different than what we could expect from, GOP pretty much sweeping the floor with the election, the Senate and the House.
Yeah.
I mean, if the liberals had, won everything, we'd be like, oh my God, they're going to take our money and buy everyone everything with it. But, now we're seeing, they might leave our money alone, but, some rights are going to be infringed upon, or at least right now everything's speculation to be threatened to be infringed upon. I mean, I'm not going to go off and say they're taking our rights. I'm not going there yet. But
they're putting the people in place for it. They're definitely moving the chess pieces into place to make these moves happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Yeah, I was going to ask you. The National Security Advisor he's planning to have General Mike Flynn. Do you know anything about him by chance?
I actually don't.
I haven't really heard too much about him either. I did have to look him up, and he's had some promise. He did call out the fact that he's one of the only people that acknowledges the fact that we are less safe from Islamic terrorism since 9/11. So he acknowledges the fact that all these measures we've done to go to war and all this stuff with the Patriot Act has done nothing but make us less safe, actually. So this guy's like somewhat promising when, as National Security Advisor, that's huge. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about the NSA. This is the guy that could shut a lot of this down. So there's some promise there with that.
What I'm most excited about that we're going to see with these positions and the names associated with them is that they are guys that have opinions and ideals that kind of go towards anyone in the military community who's really conscious of, foreign policy. Like, these are the guys that are going to have opinions that could ultimately be, a lot more security on our part. The upper cabinet guys, hey, we're talking about the prior, editor of the news forum, as well as the chief of staff position. Those are people that they're going to be there because they're there. But the fact that we're going to see, new CIA director, new Secretary of Defense, without probably Secretary of the Navy and such.
So we might get our rates back. What? Yeah. All right. So going down the list though, there's a lot of very good implications with him. He was anti-drone. He was talking about how there's no better way to piss an entire nation off and give them a reason to harass us than to drone innocent people. But he did come out and he did say he looked at Islam as a sort of cancer in our society. It's kind of incendiary. Not really something you want to say.
Maybe if you use the word radical Islam, that's like saying all Christians are the evil when really you're talking about like really radicalized, white supremacists. A small percentage of a group does not equal, the evil upon the full spectrum of the people involved.
Right. So that's kind of what our concern is that when they don't acknowledge that, you might end up with a situation like, I always go back to FDR because that was one of our darkest moments.
Round up the Japanese.
Yeah, all of them.
George Takei's family.
Yeah.
But there he is, champion of the blue.
Should do his history. But anyways. He's anti. So that being said, he's anti-drone, which is great. So we don't have to maybe worry so much about them drone striking us whenever they turn against us. I don't know. Something that bothered me though, I'm sure you all remember how, and one of the things that made my jaw hit the floor when Trump was debating, and he was talking about, we got to start getting tougher on these terrorists. We got to start going after their families. And he's talking about like actually putting them up on trial and executing the family, if not just drone striking them and killing them where they stand. No judge, no jury, no trial.
And they're kind of doing that already.
Yeah, but I'm talking about here in the States, though, with a lot of the stuff that's going on here recently. So he's talking about that. But then, so Trump's been talking about that, and this guy was mostly against it, and then, still came to the defense. I don't know if he was just trying to save Trump's face so, he could make it into presidency, or if he's actually being, kind of turned by Trump and influenced to think this way. But obviously, every libertarian out there, every real libertarian out there is vehemently against that kind of policy. Because we are individuals. We believe in the individual, not the collective. You are not responsible for someone else's action of your race or religion or even your bloodline. You're not responsible for that.
That's
you are responsible for your own destiny. Yeah.
Archaic law.
Because it's always worked.
Yeah. That's crowd control. That's really what that is. That's just, you establish that, you put that in place for a couple generations, no one's going to uprise against you. No one's going to give you shit until finally, down the road, the regime change happens, revolution happens.
There you go. Yeah, so, you got anything else you want to say about that? I'm about to talk about the CIA director now.
Yeah, that's about all I got to say about that.
So, we got a new CIA director, Representative Mike Pompeo. I don't know, kind of a weird name. Michael Pompeo. Anyways, he was pro Second Amendment, so we ain't got to worry about him getting too excited about snatching up guns anytime soon like we were worried about with Hillary Clinton. He was anti-Obamacare. That's not really going to translate directly into CIA director. This is something that terrifies me. He supports the NSA. You see the theme building here? Yeah, the police surveillance state just ever present. You know, like we launched that video earlier, or we posted up on our site, the one with Ron Paul talking about the shadow government getting to Donald Trump. And that's the problem with Donald Trump, is like he's a businessman. He's not a politician. That comes with good and bad aspects. And this is one of those situations where he doesn't understand the Constitution. He doesn't understand principles when it comes to politics, and so you'll find him caving into policies like Mike Pompeo, CIA director, that is all about the NSA, and then on top of that has called for the trial. He wants to catch Edward Snowden, and he's called for the trial and the execution of Edward Snowden. So, like, you know, if you ever reveal information that is in the better interest of the people, the American people, and anything, I mean, it's in the better interest for the Constitution, which is directly translating being better for the individuals of the United States. That guy's a hero, straight up. I mean, you can try to argue that he's a traitor, but at the end of the day, the only thing he betrayed was this oppressive surveillance state that's being built here in the once so-called land of the free. And now you have this guy, the new CIA director. You can just, all that talk about Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, all that talk about these whistleblowers maybe being pardoned by Trump. You know, you had Alex Jones, he's going on and on about it, talking about we're going to see them pardoned. And no, that's not going to happen. With him as the CIA director, Trump's going to be so heavily advised against it. Even if it does happen, okay, they come over to the States and then, oh, guess who conveniently dies in a front yard at the age of 42? Mm-hmm. So, that was a reference for Andrew Breitbart, for anybody that didn't pick up on that.
You're allowed to put out all information you want, just let the government vet it first.
Yeah, just got to make sure that it's, government approved.
Yeah.
And we'll put it up right up on that .gov website. You just keep pulling that D lever.
Yeah, but, Facebook pages they don't care too much about yet.
Yeah, they'll get to us eventually.
Oh, yeah, knocking on the door.
So that being said, we're just talking about, he's talking about Gitmo. Here we're talking about Guantanamo Bay and other secret prisons. This guy's against the closing of it. So basically, not many people know this, but the president actually reserves the right. It was a bill signed into place under Obama, where the president is reserved the right to imprison any American citizen for any reason and not grant them any trial and keep them detained in these shadow prisons, secret prisons in Guantanamo Bay for an indefinite period of time. All your habeas corpus is completely suspended.
I was going to say, yeah, it's like the reverse of habeas corpus.
Yeah. So we're going to see a continuation of that, and with someone like Mike Pompeo, you're going to see, I'm pretty sure he's going to jump on top of that a lot. So if we disappear, check Guantanamo Bay and, bring a camera and we'll have the signs maybe.
Well, make sure they delete your browser history.
Yeah, yes, and whoever's out there that has access to my computer, delete my browsing history, FFS. I'm sure they'll get it anyways because they're NSA.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. Sorry on the server, man. Don't worry about
it. And so here's one of the other really disturbing things he said. He was talking about Islamic leaders should denounce acts of terror done in the name of Islam. Good so far. A lot of people would call us anti-Muslim or xenophobes or Islamophobes. That was the one term I've been meaning to say. Islamophobes is what they would call us for saying that. Please reserve that because you're going to see a lot more way worse stuff happen later down the road when they say should denounce acts of terror or be considered potentially complicit, meaning that basically they're aiding and abetting terrorism by not denouncing. It's like George Bush all over again with the you're either with us or you're against us with the war on terror. It's like either you surrender to us and meet our demands, or you're a terrorist and you must be destroyed. So, yeah, it's just a bunch of fascism we're looking at. It's real. potentially, let's just wait until the policies get out there. Wait till it gets real before we really start calling, yelling fascist and Nazis. Don't call it so soon. You're calling it so soon. You're already discrediting yourself because people are like, nothing's happened. We can't relate with you. So just please bear with us and be right there with us and join us. Unite on these issues as they come.
Discuss. That's how we got in this position in the first place. Just talking about it. Hey, what do you think about this? Let me give you my 2 cents.
Right. Yeah, that's just something. A lot of times, I want to talk later on in another video about that. How I'm able to talk more to conservatives than I can liberals, because for that very reason, we don't get shot down for our ideas. We don't go to our safe place. We exit the echo chamber and subject our ideas to the fire, and they either burn or they're forged. So, I want to encourage a little more of that. I got a couple more candidates on here. I want to discuss one more. This one's not locked in. It's Secretary of State. Kind of a big deal. So we have 2 candidates right now. We have Rudy Giuliani and Mitt Romney. So I'm sure you all know how I feel about Mitt Romney. And just so you know, Rudy Giuliani, I did not see that one coming. But that is basically Mitt Romney too, a significantly uglier version of Mitt Romney. But same policies, and that's why they failed in that's why they failed during the GOP primaries, is because they're just total socialists. They're statists. They're okay with the Patriot Act. They're okay with the Freedom Act. Jeff Sessions at least voted against the Freedom Act. But Patriot Act, Freedom Act, Rudy Giuliani, Mitt Romney, they're both all in on that. They're both statists. They're happy to see your rights taken away, both social and economic. So Secretary of the State, it's lose-lose, more establishment. That's the whole reason Mitt Romney didn't get it last time, is because he's so establishment. Nobody wants that. Thumbs down all around there, Trump me boy. There's nothing good. It's all establishment or it's all statist bullshit. But there is one guy this guy loves. Go ahead and want to talk for a moment about that?
Yeah, General James Mad Dog Mattis, prior Commandant. He was not Commandant of the Marine Corps. He was Commandant of the Marine Corps. Trying to remember.
He's your boy, man. You're supposed to know all about him.
One of the just most beloved guys in the Marine Corps in the past. Since going back to the days of Chesty Puller. I mean, he's any Marine, anyone who's been assigned Marine unit. Myself, who was part of a Marine unit, just knowing about him and his legacy, he really just set the example of the character and demeanor that Marines should carry, which to them the standard's pretty high. And man, I really didn't come in. You kind of shotgun me. I didn't have any information preloaded about this.
You saw me coming to the end of the list, B.
Yeah, seriously. So what do you guys say about him?
Some of the things that concern me about him is I'm sure as a general he's very effective. Yeah. You put him in an arena where he needs to get a war won, I'm sure he's quite effective of it. But as a Secretary of Defense, it concerns me when he looks at anti-war protesters and essentially calls them pussies. I'm sure you've heard the quote. Have you heard that quote?
Of course I have.
I think you're the one that shot me that
meme.
Yeah. But it's basically to say, every time I see an anti-war protester, I give them a hug and then look over at their girlfriend and give them a wink because they know they're dating a pussy. So he's very pro-war, hence the name Mad Dog. He's ready to rip somebody's head off.
He was everything you needed for someone in the position of an active wartime. Because a Marine is most effective when you give him an objective and say, destroy this, because they will destroy it in all ultimatum. Sometimes phases of war you need that. Some other times of peacekeeping you don't need that. So it'll be very interesting to see if he gets this position. If he does, how he handles. I mean, he's been out of the game for probably over 4 to 5 years now, and his positions that he had, in his last years. Like I know him as the infantry general who led the charge and led charges in Iraq and motivated the boys there. But in his later years, he was in such high-level positions that he dealt with Secretary of Defense. He dealt with Secretary of the Navy. He probably dealt with President Obama and, Secretary Clinton. So he knows how to finagle that complexity of being a military man in a civilian position and just knowing how to have that broad objective. So, obviously with my history, I'm rooting for him. Like, yeah, man, let's go. But I do see, objectively that there's going to be situations that maybe he might not handle well. Maybe he will see an anti-war protester while he's in a civilian business here in defense and says, "You're a pussy. You should be saying that." And it's like, well, it's First Amendment right. He can say that.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Right. Well, so that's just like really my main concern with him. I'm not too worried about how he handles like individuals on a case-by-case basis, but I'm more concerned about what he does with the position of Secretary of Defense, because it is just that, Secretary of Defense, not offense.
Yeah.
So,
that
one's... Huh?
Another great meme.
Yeah, we should totally make that a meme.
Yeah, totally.
But, that being said, he's more of an offensive kind of guy. There's no guarantees. On a lot of these guys, there's no guarantees. We just see the patterns. Enough to raise a caution flag, but nothing's been implemented yet. So, it's like, again, stick by, pay attention. This whole election thing, people usually only engage in it the last 6 months. But the thing is, you've got to be paying attention to everything that's going on, because during those other 4 years is when you really need to pay attention to politics. Because then the midterms come up, and we got to figure out where we're going as a country. How do we vote? How do we stop or speed up what's going on? If what's going on is great, let's vote in people that are going to support these kind of policies. But if it's the total shit show, obviously we should try to stop it at every course we can. So, that being said, any final words?
No.
All right. Well, again, stay tuned. We'll try to keep you informed here at Critical Thoughts, breaking through the white noise to bring you the media that matters.